What do you think truly makes a great leader able to do things like that?
Yeah, I think either some of them, it's just they are divisive in the way they do it, and I think that's kind of the route Elon's gone. And yes, like a founder-led company is going to grow faster, right? They don't have to answer to anyone, assuming they haven't sold out stake equity in the business or have sold out to venture capital, private equity. People that make it big, CEOs, founders, whatever they are inherently disruptors, and they're going to go against the tide a little bit, but they also have to play to the masses. Like
It's like they clearly have examples of hard workers. What do you think
mhm.
made them go the complete opposite direction?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I don't know if I've really thought it through because, I always like to look inwardly. Like, if there are problems, like, I'm going to look at myself first. Like, I believe in what Jocko Willink calls extreme ownership. So,
And we're back. So today we got a special guest. We got our boy Lee Park right here in the building.
yes,
Lee, how you
sir.
doing?
I'm doing great, Ricardo. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh man, dude, it's crazy. We've been talking about this for a little bit, and we finally got to make it, so that's cool. Thank you for making the time. I know you're busy, with all of Augusta and then more. So, quickly wanted to ask, just give a little bit of background, kind of, what you do, what like kind of your journey up to now and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. So if anybody doesn't know, yeah, so my name is Lee Park. I have been with Augusta Lawn Care Services for 7.5 years now. And kind of my background was not in lawn care and landscaping. And it was just, I went to college, wasn't sure what I was going to do after college. My summertime job while paying my way through school was as a park ranger for like an RV park. So basically like their maintenance guy. So I did do like lawn mowing and stuff like that, but it wasn't my passion. It was just like, I kind of do it, but I also, fix toilets or whatever. And just your maintenance guy, your handyman. And long story short, college ended, summer job ended, wasn't sure what I was going to do. And long story short, I went and applied to work at Augusta, and I've been here ever since. So currently now my role is more onboarding new owners into Augusta, training them, supporting them through that process, and making sure they get a good start in our systems.
Dude, insane. That's a really nice nice trajectory. Definitely not your probably not what you expected yourself. I mean, I know that most people when they go into a lawn care company, they don't really see themselves go up in that kind of trajectory. Maybe
Right.
they just think it's like, oh, it's just temporary work, or like, oh, I'm just here, get some money, and then maybe go back to school or
Mhm.
go into like a more traditional corporate job. What made you stay in Augusta?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer was the people. And that really
Mm,
was, obviously our CEO and founder, Mike Andes, Liz Neighbor, who's our COO, and I've worked with her for years, and just the great people around the team that Mike had created. Folks that are
mm,
still around Mike today, like Brad with Home Service CPA, Nick, who works at the franchise, and a bunch of other people that I won't have time to name. So they're not forgotten, trust me. But it was just the culture that Mike had built that every day we're going to come in and work on ourselves. Every day we're going to come in and get better. Every day you're going to be rewarded for your hard work. And that was something that really appealed to me. A lot of us, I know what are you, Gen Z technically? So
I
I'm
think
a,
so.
I'm a young millennial. You're Gen Z. A lot of us get labeled as like not the hardest working, right? And that's fine. Whatever, let perceptions be what they are. But I had a lot of jobs where I did feel like I worked with other millennials and even people much older than me that I was like, why are they making more than me? Like, why are we even getting paid the same? Because I'm putting in way more effort. And the culture that Mike had built and the people that bought into that culture of you will get rewarded for your hard work here, and there will be room to move up if you apply yourself. That
Mm,
really appealed to me. By no means am I saying like I'm some amazing wonderkind by any means. I'm just saying I've put in the hard work, and that's the culture that Mike built, and that's what appealed to me. Like, I want to work hard, and I want
mm,
to make money for working hard. I don't just want to clock in and get through the day, if that makes sense.
mm. Yeah, no, it completely makes sense, and it's kind of like I would go as far as calling it like an epidemic right now, especially in my generation and the generations below. What is it, like alpha or something like that?
Who knows?
I don't know. It's whatever letter they put on it, but like they're just so unmotivated and so like lazy. They just want to clock in, do the bare minimum, and get paid for it. And so it's like, where do you think that kind of comes from? Because it's definitely not from their parents. Because most parents, or like most parents are hard workers. They came here for better life, whatever. Or even if they were born here, they came here, went through the school system, worked one, two jobs. So it's like they clearly have examples of hard workers. What do you think made them go the complete opposite direction?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I don't know if I've really thought it through because, I always like to look inwardly. Like, if there are problems, like, I'm going to look at myself first. Like, we,
Mm,
we believe a lot at Augusta, and me personally, I believe in what Jocko Willink calls extreme ownership. So, if there are
mhm.
issues, if there are problems, it's like, what did I do wrong? So, then my question becomes, okay, if I'm part of a company, I have a voice, and I get invited on a cool podcast like this, like, what can I do to make sure to inspire the next generation, to make them feel
Mhm,
supported, to make them want to work harder? So I don't know if it's a quote unquote a them problem. I think it's
mhm.
more of just a societal problem of why have we lost the motivation to work, right? Why have we lost faith in businesses, right? If you look at some studies, and Mike and I have talked about this before, if you look at recent studies, like Gen Z and the generation below you have the least amount of trust in corporations ever, right? And that's why a lot of people are building personal brands because we relate to people now. We don't really relate to brands. My grandfather made a lot of money in the stock market. You know who he bought stocks of? Like Starbucks, Boeing, like just like boring companies. He didn't
Mhm.
make a bunch of money because he was smart with stocks. He just put it into companies that people liked and people cared about and people trusted. And we've just lost so much trust in corporations and working for the man. So how can we get that trust back and inspire younger generations to want to work hard and feel that they can be rewarded for their hard work? And I completely understand, the way they feel, that there are so many corporations and people out there taking advantage of them as labor. How can we win that trust back, right?
Interesting. So do you think in this day and age, personal brands would trump over traditional corporations?
Yeah, I think that's just a general trend you're seeing. Like, even if you like, I don't care where you stand politically, but like Elon Musk is one of the most talked about
Mhm.
people in the world. Yes, he's one of the most, or he is the richest person in the world, I believe. But it's
Yes.
also because he's put his face on all the brands. So like Tesla,
Mhm.
synonymous with Elon. SpaceX, synonymous with Elon. So whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. Like, there's this synonymous element to where people, you either like him or you hate him, but
Right.
his face is attached to those products. And that's where I think people are attracted to that. I think that's one of the reasons people are attracted to Augusta, is because Mike is the face of Augusta. Like, we're not going to shy away from that. He has built a personal brand that is, I work hard, I take care of my people, I'm professional. People are attracted to that. So I think that's the general rule of thumb right now. If you have an emerging brand, is try to put a face to it if you want that. But if you're going for more the corporate route, like, yes, building systems and structure, not having a face to it isn't bad either.
Dude, yeah, yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I myself, I don't know if you would call it a fan or whatever, but I
Yeah,
really look up to Elon Musk. Like, he's absolutely insane. And not even just Elon Musk, like, if you look at great companies that are worth trillions, billions, like, for example, like Steve Jobs, you know, say what you might say about his personality and whatever, but like, he was a true leader and he knew what he wanted to do and he knew how to
totally.
get it. And like, he inspired a bunch of people, right? And it's people like that. Like, what do you think truly makes a great leader able to do things like that?
Hmm. When you say like that, you mean what? Build really cool businesses that we all know, like get high
Yeah, like
valuations.
more like make the impact that people would still talk about them today.
Mhm. Yeah, I think either some of them, it's just they are divisive in the way they do it, and I think that's kind of the route Elon's gone. And whether he's intentionally divisive or not, it's just like
Mm,
he is going to cause disturbance based on the way he does things. Steve
right.
Jobs was the exact same way. Steve Jobs,
Hmm.
like, what was Apple's like first ever tagline or slogan? Think different, right?
Hmm.
And so that was, we're going to do things differently than corporate America. Not everyone who works at Apple or is on the board at Apple is going to have to wear a suit and tie, right? Like Steve Jobs' famous outfit, what was it? Jeans and a turtleneck. Like, that is not corporate America in most people's minds. So I think they are, like, people that make it big, CEOs, founders, whatever they are inherently disruptors. And they're going to go against the tide a little bit, but they also have to play to the masses. Like, your market is the people out there, the consumer. So you have to play to the masses. You have to have something that they want. Steve Jobs knew people wanted smart processing computing systems, but he also was going to do it differently than IBM and all his other predecessors.
Interesting. So, do you think founder-led companies like Apple, like Tesla, like SpaceX, like even Augusta, like do you think those would be essentially worth more than corporations that are just led by CEOs that change every other year?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you're looking at in terms of worth, I think if you're looking for growth, then yes, like a founder-led company is going to grow faster, right? They don't have to answer to anyone, assuming they haven't sold out stake equity in the business or have sold out to venture capital and
Mm,
private equity. They can just move
mm,
faster, and if they can move
mhm,
faster and they have a vision and they have strategy around that vision,
mhm.
then they will hit their quote unquote goal. They will hit a mark faster than your traditional corporate America, where every major decision goes to a board or some directors or someone who's even off site. So, and that's one of the reasons, Mike has always said like he will retain voting shares, the majority of voting shares
Mhm,
in Augusta. So no one can tell him what to do. And I think like you and me would agree, we're like,
mhm.
good, we don't want that because we
Yep,
trust you to make the right decisions. And
yep,
yeah, you're going to disrupt things and people will be upset, but you have to make the right decisions.
exactly. And so, for example, putting yourself in Mike's shoes, if you had to make it, like if you were faced with a decision, make a change that would, for example, bring the valuation of the business up, or would, serve the owners long term, but give probably short term pain for a year, 2 years, 3 years. What do you think goes into making that decision apart from like obviously good and bad?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's zooming out, right? And that is what are you
Okay.
optimizing for when you're making those decisions? So,
Hmm.
this decision, this hypothetical, right, is like, okay, there's going to be short term pain, but hopefully long term gain. Okay, well, what is that long term gain? And if that long term gain fits into what I'm optimizing for, then we're going to make that decision. If that long term gain does not fit into it, then we are
Mm-hmm.
going to say no to that decision, if that makes sense. So, that's why we really believe heavily in frameworks at Augusta, and I've started to apply them to my personal life of what are you optimizing for? And if it fits into that, then great, do it. If it doesn't fit into what you're trying to get done, what you're trying to optimize for, then don't do it. Like it's that
Hmm.
simple.
Yeah, priorities, optimization makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And so, why do you think that? Like, do you think the problem with small business, apart from growth stages, cashes, and like, everything that we know from Mike's content and so on, like, apart from all that, do you think small business mainly suffer from good leadership?
Small businesses suffer under good leadership, or you're saying
No,
they suffer
suffer
because they
from,
don't have good
yeah, because
leadership?
they don't have good leadership.
Got it. Yeah, I would say that's a huge determining factor, right? The
Mm,
biggest variable to anybody when I talk to people that want to join Augusta, I always tell them the number one variable is you. Like I can tell you all the cool things that Augusta is going to do for you, and I can tell you all the systems we built and all the coaching and this, that, or the other. But you are the variable. You are the one that has to make it work. And there's a quote that I like from Alex Hormozy where he says, "You are the thing that has to do it. If it is running a business, you have to run the business. If it is selling a product, you have to sell the product. Like the product could be perfect. Someone still has to sell it, right? Like the iPhone could be perfect. Someone still had to sell the iPhone.
yep, yep, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. And so, like looking at people like Mike, right? Mike has a lot of people behind him, a lot of people, like you said, from years from the start, just like yourself, Liz, Nick. Why do you think people like just orbit around Mike, like they stick for so long? What is it
Yeah.
about Mike that just makes people like great people, hardworking people with talent and goals and vision? Why do they choose to stick with him?
Hmm. I think you have to be willing to align with whatever that person's core values are. And
Mm,
if you don't align with it, that's fine. But I think having your core values, having kind of a North Star, having a vision, right? There are so many books out there that talk about a vision. And Mike has always said, in other books have said, like, if the vision's big enough to fit other people's visions inside of it, they will follow you. So I do not have a vision to have a franchise that has hundreds and hundreds of locations and eventually IPO on the stock market. Like that is not my vision. It never has been. It probably never will
mhm,
be. But my vision is to hopefully make an impact on small business owners, support him to achieve his goals, because I know if I can support someone like Mike, who is truly caring, who is truly giving, his impact on the world will be bigger. And so that's part of the reason I've stuck with him is that he gives me opportunities to push myself. And I also think if you're going to work with like a very, very, very high skilled entrepreneur, like a very high level, high thinking person, you have to be comfortable with criticism. And there have been people that have been, in quote unquote Mike's inner circle, for lack of a better word. That's not a term we use. I want to be clear, but like that have been kind of in the inner circle. And, they don't like the way that we operate when it comes to hard decisions, when it comes to aggressive feedback. I shared a short story at the conference of a very hard conversation that Mike and I had. And I was like, hey, this is probably going to be a shock to a lot of people. Like, you see Mike in a very different light. But this was a very hard conversation he had with me. But he knows I want that because he knows I'm not going to settle for mediocrity. He knows I take my responsibilities very seriously at this company. And so I want the hard feedback. Some people don't, and that's totally fine. Like, no harm, no foul. Go find a company that better fits with what you want. But I want that. I want to be pushed to a higher level. I know Liz does. I know Nick does. I know a bunch of other people that are around Mike want to be pushed to a higher level. They don't just want to stagnate and stay in some little corporate career and make whatever a year. Like, they want to get to the next level. So it's having that vision that people can fit inside of, but also pushing them to get better.
Interesting, interesting. So having that vision and then pushing people to get better. Yeah. Like me as a business owner, as a franchisee, I definitely look up to Mike when it comes to leadership. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even look up to yourself and look up to Liz because you guys have been in the game way longer than I have. And so it's just seeing like that tenacity, that fierce, like that motivation to like always just go, go, go. Like, like you said, you have to do it in order for it to
Yeah.
be done, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
do the thing or else it's just not gonna get done. So
Right.
yeah, I really do admire that from all of you guys. And so tell me, you briefly talked about conference.
Yeah.
Um, you had a great speech, probably
Thank
like
you.
definitely top three, I think. And when I was doing the walk around interviews, you gave a little snippet of what you were going to talk about. If you could remember, could you give
Yeah.
us a little summary of it?
Yeah, so basically, Mike asked me to speak at his landscape summit, and you were there, and I appreciate the kind words. But basically, I wanted to speak more from the heart and kind of give the employee's perspective, because
Hmm.
I do have the unique opportunity of being around an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur like Mike, and then working with entrepreneurs like yourself and all the owners in Augusta. But I've never owned a business, and to my credit, like, I don't know if that gives me an advantage or a disadvantage, but either way, it gives me unique perspective. So take it or leave it. What I talked about is ultimately what I called the death of craftsmanship. And the trend that I see specifically with business owners is that people do not want to dedicate to something. And Mike has talked about this as well. He calls it a fix it and flip it mentality, right? There's no dedication to your craft anymore. There's no dedication to figuring out how to be a good leader. There's no dedication to figuring out how to manage a perfectly systematically run business. What most people are looking for nowadays is bottom line. Can I get rich quick? What's the return on this investment? How quickly can I take this business opportunity, get my return and then some, and then exit? Like, that is not going to be good for you to build your skill set. It's not going to be good for actually building genuine business acumen and business skills. And it's also not good for the employees, for the consumer, for everyone involved. And so that's kind of the premise of the conversation, is just like, be dedicated to your craft. If you're going to run a business, run the business. Don't just look at the finish line, because the finish
Hmm.
line is never ending. Like, if you want to run a
Hmm.
business, the finish line is you dying. If we're gonna get really bleak, right? Like, let's get really bleak. The finish line of business is you're gonna die at some point. So
Hmm.
what are you trying to get to? And if you're gonna try to get to whatever that goal is, like, be dedicated to that goal. Don't just try to fix and flip it.
No, definitely. Yeah, I've actually had a talk with Nick about this recently, right? Because, like, for example, in Augusta, right, we have the stages of growth, right, from 0 to 200, from 200 to 500, and from 500 to 800, so on and so forth. And so everybody from 200 to 500, right, the wilderness, everybody wants to get through that as fast as possible, right? Mike preaches
Yeah.
it, everybody preaches it, right? But it's like you said, everybody's just trying to everybody has like that get rich quick mentality. It's like, no, it takes a lot of work to go from 200 to 500. It's
Yeah.
$300,000. It's not easy. That's three employees. You go from two to five, four. It's a lot of work. And so it's like, if you try to rush that, you will crash. Like,
Mhm.
you are going to crash. And like, I caught myself almost falling into that trap, right? Because, last year we did 275. We really trying to push past 500. And I had Nick, I had Connor, I had everybody tell me, like, okay, great. That's amazing. But
Mhm.
slow down a little bit and just be ready because managing people is not easy. You
Yeah.
yourself know that. I'm learning that. And it's definitely something hard. And like you said, there's no point. Even Nick said it. Like the whole point of being in this game is to stay in the game, right? Running out of cash is one of the main reasons why businesses go out of business. And I mean, just having that happen is very unfortunate. So, like,
Hmm.
what would you say to a young entrepreneur, probably such as myself or someone younger, that is has like a lot of motivation to go and just has large ambitions, wants to grow really fast, 3 to 5 years, $1 million business? What would you tell them?
Yeah. I think my first piece of advice would be don't worry so much about building the business, focus on building yourself. And
Mm.
that comes through those leadership skills. That comes through learning how to have hard conversations, learning how to sell, learning how to manage people and build relationships and rapport with your employees. Like those are the skills you need to grow a business. Anybody out there can throw a bunch of money at marketing, go out and buy a bunch of trucks, go out and buy a bunch of mowers, but not everybody can sell their product, can communicate that effectively to the customers and the crew. Not everybody can manage people, make them feel heard, bought into the culture, and ultimately lead and have that vision and have that passion to grow something. So capital is just one element of building a business. Anybody can get capital. You can get a loan, you can get whatever, or you just have it. You've inherited it, whatever. But not everyone has those leadership skills. Not everyone has communication skills. Not everyone has sales skills. So I would just really heavily impress on any young entrepreneurs, like build yourself first. Don't worry about like the top line or the bottom line. Don't even worry about your profit and loss statement. Focus on like what are you doing to get better at sales, at leadership, at management. Do that as you grow the business and grow the business as fast as you can without burning yourself out. That would be my piece of advice. And everybody's different, right? Some people can build $1 million business in 2-3 years. Other people, it's going to take 5 to 7. Totally fine. Go at your own pace, but work on building yourself during that process.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something. I heard a quote, I forget who it was from, but a business is essentially a reflection of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so like you as yourself, as the business grows, you as yourself grow as a person, right? And so it's like when you're trying to rush to something that you haven't upgraded yourself before the business upgrades, then that's when the crash happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, for example, like, like going from a laborer to like a manager, then going to essentially like working GM and then going to a regional manager if you open multiple locations and stuff like that, being a absentee owner, like those are vastly different
Yeah.
stages, vastly different stages in a business owner's lives. And it's like when you started out mowing lawns, that person's completely different from the guy that's overlooking 5 different locations, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, how can what would you say to like, I guess, advice on what would you say like are some resources to make sure that number one, the person stays consistent with the business growth and doesn't get either too ahead or too behind,
Mm-hmm.
and like either maintain that like in a consistent basis so it's actually sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot of like self awareness involved, right? And that's
Mm,
where kind of going back to my last answer to your previous question, which is, where I said you got to build yourself, and building
mhm,
yourself is self, like understanding also self awareness, like where are my deficits? What am I bad at? Like be honest with yourself, and then it's like what am I good at, and like be okay with that. I've said this before, in team meetings when someone's been like, well, I think I'm good at this, but then they kind of like shy away and they don't like make eye contact when they say it. They're like, well, I think I'm good at this, but it's like socially unacceptable to do that. And so I've said this before at team meetings. I'm like, hey, normalize saying things that you're good at. Like normalize that. Like don't be prideful, don't brag, don't be obnoxious. But if you're like, hey, I'm really good at sales, great, that's awesome, show us, teach us, like we want to be
mhm.
good at sales, but
Yeah.
also have the self-awareness of where your deficits are and then attack those aggressively. So for myself, like we have the Audible account at Augusta. I still don't have the best soft skills. I'm very bad. I'll be honest. Like I'm working on it. Like that is one of my deficits. I don't have the best soft skills. I'm very bad at understanding where people are and meeting them emotionally where they are. I'm a very just kind of straightforward black and white type of person, and so I really needed to work on empathy. And you need to be empathetic if you're going to be a leader. So who's one of my favorite authors now? Simon Sinek. Like I
Mm,
read so much of his work because he has those soft skills. He knows how to be empathetic. He knows how to emotionally connect with his employees and make them feel safe. And so that was a deficit that I still have that I consistently work on.
mhm.
And so identifying like your strengths, get better at those, but identify your deficits and work extremely hard to make them no
Mhm.
longer your deficits.
Interesting, dude. If you want to get a podcast, you should. I don't know, I forget if it's a podcast, if it's like a YouTube show or whatever. It's
Yep.
John Deloney. He's
Okay.
Dr. John Deloney. Whatever Deloney show. He's part of Dave Ramsey's whole I don't know what it's called, like group.
Oh yeah,
Um,
dude. I've seen him. I just Googled it.
yeah,
Yeah, dude.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he's great.
Dude, he's when it comes to like empathy, feeling feelings, talking to people, like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
great. He's great. So you should definitely look into his stuff. He's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know
Um,
his name, but I 110% have watched him his videos.
yeah.
Every time I see like a short of his, I usually pause because I'm like, oh, this will be good.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, no, Don Deloney is really good. No, but dude, yeah, and so C-Suite Unfiltered.
Yeah.
It's a podcast that we all love and we all like to watch. What was the point of it? What was the point of starting it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, now I think that like we've gotten better. Like credit to Mike's media team for really
Yeah.
just portraying Mike holistically. But obviously, I've been with Mike for 7.5 years. So if you go back on his YouTube channel, just go back like 7 years and watch some of that old content. Great content. Like there's still
Yeah,
so much
yeah,
education, but like he was so just like rigid and so like serious. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like hey, he's giving you business content for free. Nothing wrong with being serious. Nothing wrong with being a little more rigid, a little more, suit and tie, if you will. Which literally some of his old videos, he's in a suit and tie to seem more serious. But the idea behind starting C-Suite was just show him in a different light, show him in the
mm,
context of us having conversations about politics, about macroeconomics, about leadership, about business, about things that we really don't have a right to talk about, but we're going to anyways. Well, at least I don't. Mike's pretty darn educated. And so it was really just kind of bring the audience in like, hey,
interesting.
we're real
Oh,
people too. Like we talk about dumb stuff. We
yeah.
talk about trends on social media. We talk about politics. We talk about the
Mhm,
stock market. So it was really just to kind of open up the audience to see like,
mhm.
hey, Mike's just not this business guy. He's also like my friend, my boss, and also just very smart about like
Yeah.
everything for somehow. So
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've noticed. I mean, the whole like you said, the whole point of the podcast, it really does show like Mike in a different light. So I guess it's working out. I mean, he definitely knows a lot about a lot of things.
yeah.
And so,
How here,
you know,
I don't
yeah.
want to cut you off. How can I make it better?
Oh, how can you make it better?
What would you prefer?
I oddly really like the politics version just because this administration is very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely something really good. And it's very controversial because a lot of people are against it. But honestly, the way I see it, I see America as a business. And, you know, whatever. You might say whatever about Trump,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But
totally.
like, bro, he knows what he's doing. Like
Mhm.
he has a plan, he knows what he's doing. He's essentially putting the country into profit mode, right?
Yeah,
With
there you
with
go.
with tariffs, with all of these
Yeah,
increases, like and the fact that people don't understand that, I feel like it's just a lack of education and not necessarily on their part. Maybe it's
yeah.
not their fault, they're just not aware of it. But it's something that definitely needs to be talked about, not to defend or to kind of like say that he's doing the right things or not, but
Mhm.
it's like there's a reasoning behind. There's like a reason behind the madness or whatever they say.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I feel like that would help, even though people are kind of like allergic to politics for whatever reason.
yeah.
But I think I really like those parts. I really like that.
All right, fair
So
enough. Yeah, I feel like we were getting some pushback, and I didn't want to make it like a full
yeah,
political
yeah,
podcast
yeah.
because a podcast that I do listen to has gone that way. Like when I first started listening to it, like 2+ years ago, they were very business heavy, very tech heavy, which I
Mhm.
don't know a ton about the tech world, and so that's why I listened. And now it's like 99% politics, and I'm like, I mean, it's not bad, but like
Right.
I can't remember. I haven't listened to an episode for like over a month because it's just all politics. So that's the balance I'm trying to find. I know people like it.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people probably align with what you said and how Mike and I lean politically speaking, but we also
Mhm.
don't want to isolate people because it is
Right.
so like hot button. Not that Mike or I
Mhm.
have extreme views, but it's also like, hey, if it affects us as business owners, let's talk about it. If it doesn't, like we'll leave it to the experts. But I
Exactly.
do generally agree with you. I'll say that. I'll say that.
Hey, hey,
And I'll give you the and I'll give you this here. I'll give you a freebie. It's not directly related, but here
mhm.
you go. This is for you and your audience. So I sent that to Mike. It's a graph of from Unusual Whales, and it said the Magnificent Seven is blood red today. So this is from at day of recording. The stock market is getting destroyed. I
Mhm.
sent it to Mike. I said, "You shopping today?" Question mark. He said, "Yeah, nibbling on it." So there you go. There's your
Exactly,
not financial
exactly.
advice.
Hey, not non-financial advice right here on the pod,
Yeah.
live on the pod. Insane. Great. Dude, I think this has been great. We're gonna go ahead and get the boys in. They're very
Cool.
eager to
Love
get
it.
some wisdom from you.
All
So,
right.
for people watching, go head over to the Mobile Go channel. We'll have part two over there. And again, thank you, Lee, very much, and we'll be here in a second.
Cool. Thanks, Cardo.